There's lots of people jumping on. I can't say hello to you all because I'm missing you, but I'll say hello to you afterwards. And if you have got any questions, please just put them down in the comments and I will get back to you later on this afternoon. So that's great. Now, how many of you paint in acrylics but worry about being too neat, too tidy and too detailed? And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to loosen up a little bit. We'll start how you expect and then I'm going to go way off piste. So hopefully it'll give you a good excuse as to how you can loosen things up, a good few tips I hope. Get started. Now the picture I'm going to use here is this one here. Now this is two printings of the same picture. And the reason I just wanted to show you this is I get a lot of times I get people saying to me, I haven't got the colour 100% right, as in the photograph, but I've printed these two out on different papers at different times here, and I think you'll see that they're very different pictures. One's got a lot more detail into it, this one's got a lot more colour in it, so it's all very different. So don't worry too much about exact details, it's about getting roughly what you need to get in there. And making it work as a painting. Now I'm just going to go through what I'm going to be using here. I've got my, just move those up there, my flat brush that I use all the time. This is a 30mm flat brush and you can get this through the SAA, and I do have a link on the notes in the resources. I'm going to use a small flat brush. This is a Pebeo brush, a number 10 flat. I have got a number 8 round, I've got a number 4 flat brush, one of the SAA detailers, and I've got a stick. And the other thing that I'm going to be using here today is a roller. Now this is a decorating roller, and this is generally used for putting, for sealing the edges of wallpaper. When you put wallpaper up, it's for sealing the strips. So I'm going to use that to get some different textures and loosen things up a little bit. Now something else I've got that's really important, and this is for Jeremy, is I've got a couple of biscuits there for you, Jeremy, so I hope that's okay. I'm going to move those to the side because I don't really want those in the painting. Move that out of the way. Just move those out of the way. So these are my colours. I'm using Atelier Interactive acrylics, and I like them because they stay open for longer. And using the deluxe brush bath that I'm using here and the interactive acrylics, like I say, my acrylic paint is still wet from before. So let me move these out of the way so I can get started. Okay, now I have drawn my picture out. I don't always draw things out. Because you will see I'm going to go over a lot of it, but I want to start fairly conventionally. So I'm using some ultramarine and some white, and I'm going to start up here in my sky. This big brush covers beautifully. And I'm not overly worried about detail at this stage. This is just blocking in areas. You still can't quite see it all, can you? Okay, now I'm going to come and put in a hint of the background mountains, and I'm going to use some ultramarine and alizarin and a little bit of my toning grey just to stop it being too bright. So I'm getting those into that background set of hills. And I'm going to add a little bit of my, actually I'm using a colour here, I've forgotten to put that in there, it's called Red Gold. I'll show it to you, it's this one. And it's a beautiful colour. Oops. It's this lovely rich gold red, which is really, really nice. And I'm going to add a little bit of that in to the colour I had before. And that's on my next hill forward. So at the moment this is still fairly conventional, what you would expect. With painting. And I'm going to increase the red into this. On this area down here again, and the warmer colours you have, the more in the foreground they will be. Okay, so I've just cleaned my brush out. I'm going to pick up now the water here. It's glacial water, so I'm going to go back. I've still got a bit of my phthalo turquoise from doing the seascape that we did last week. And I'm going to put some of that coming in this beautiful glacial water. So this was from Canada. Just bring that through there. This is just blocking in at the moment. I'm not worried, overly worried at the minute about where things are going to be. Okay, now I'm coming in with a little bit of my green, so I'm going to use a little bit of my light green mixed with the green black. At the moment this is just big strokes. I'm using my big brush for the whole of this. And there's a road in the foreground. Just move that up slightly so you can see this bit, but I'm completely ignoring that. I don't want to see that in my painting. Bit of yellow ochre as well. Okay, just cleaning my brush out. I think something that I've noticed that all of us do, I've got my cloth here, Matthew's got his tissue, but we all control the water very carefully, and it's something that you have to get used to, is controlling your water. So it's putting the water on, taking it off, cleaning your brushes, and controlling exactly how much water that you have on your picture. Right, now I'm going to do something a little bit different here, and this is where the loosening up comes in. So I'm going to make up quite a red mix, so it's my red gold with a little bit of my crimson. I'm going to come back down a bit so you can see the mountains, and I'm going to put some of my toning grey into it. But just to show you, I've not really mixed this very well. I want this to just be a bit of red, a bit of the orange, a bit of the grey in there, but not all mixed together. And now I'm going to pick it up on my roller. Just need a little bit more of it. And I'm going to start rollering. Now this, you can't be too accurate. I want some of that coming across here as well. And I'm making it a bit brighter in the foreground. Now you can't be too fussy when you're working like this. A little bit more of it there. Okay, now I've added a little bit of my Naples yellow to this, and just changing that to this sort of peachy colour, and I'm putting that down where I know I'm going to have some of these, they were like beaches really on the edge of the river. And the thing I get asked so often is my acrylics or my watercolours are too tight. So it's about saying, well, how do I do something to loosen it up? So if you paint in a different way, if you start differently, then you have no choice but to be a bit looser. Let's have some colours going on down there. Do you know what? Let's do one going like that and one going like that. Okay, now in the sky we've got some quite big clouds going on, so I want to mix up some purples, some dark purples, and put some of that in with my roller as well. So I've used my crimson, my alizarin and my ultramarine, and I'm going to put some of these roller marks up in here. And down across those hills. Okay, so it's all very dramatic, it's all very scary, but just give yourself a chance to have a go. Just relax with it. So now I want to come back in and paint a little bit more conventionally. So it's a little bit of both. It's a bit of painting with what you expect and a bit of painting how you don't expect. So I'm coming back to my sky colours. So I've got my ultramarine and my white. I've actually got a tiny bit of the turquoise in there as well, but I'm going to come back in and put a little bit of another layer into the sky, where I know my blue sky is, not the clouds. But what I'd want to try and do is avoid covering over all of these lovely textures and marks. Now just over these hills at the back there's some quite bright white behind there. Dragging that across, and I'm using the brush like I did before. Sometimes you use it on the flat of the brush, and sometimes you're using it twisted so that you're getting these broken marks. And I want some darker colours coming in. In fact, on this, I'm just going to wash my roller. And I want to put my roller across as well. And I'm just going to use my smaller flat brush, my number 10, just to move some of this around. So we're doing a bit of blending here whilst the paint is still wet. Putting in a bit more colour where it's needed, but you've got all these rough textures going on, and it's by definition you're not tight, and this is a really fabulous way of loosening up your work. It creates such interesting textures on the painting as well. We've all talked about different textures, and you could actually do some of Ali's printing techniques on this as well. I think that would work really well to give you these textures in your painting. If you don't have a decorating roller like this one, you can use a lino printing roller. You could use, what else could you use? You know those little rollers that you can get for painting the radiators? Those kind of things as well. It's just really using something that's going to give you a different texture. Because it's not a brush, it doesn't move the paint in the same way. And I'm picking up all sorts of bits of colours as I go along here. So So I'm making again a bit more of my dark purpley colour, so my crimson and my ultramarine. I've just put a bit of brown into this one as well. And these mountains do slightly disappear into the clouds, which I quite like. They're there, but they're not there. It's definitely about just having a go, really. And don't be so scared of paint. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that you have some fun and waste a couple of hours. So I'm almost there, I think, with what I want on the sky. Just a little bit more here. I'll probably come back to that at the end again, but just for now, I think I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so move that. I'm going to come into these hills at the background here. Just want to put a bit of shading on them, a bit of shape. So I think looking at this, my dark is going to be to that side of these hills. Again, I'm putting it on lightly, I'm tapping it down because I don't want to lose all of the texture that I've got. I'm just kind of scrubbing into it really. Trying not to lose that texture that I've got. And this is partly why doing the drawing, I don't always do a drawing because, to be honest, I paint over it so much and I'm not really looking so much at my photograph anymore. I'm looking at seeing what the painting needs. And that's kind of how it becomes a semi-abstract landscape. Now I'm going to pick up a bit of my Naples yellow and mix it into my purple mix. And I just want to put a little touch of that on the light side of my hills. Some coming up here. Right, now my hills themselves are not a dissimilar shade to those. I like the way that the hills and the clouds dissolve into one another, but I do want to just make a little bit of definition here. Not too much though. Just bringing that around. Back to my mix with the Naples yellow in it. Ooh, picked up some blue, I don't mind that. Picked up a bit of the turquoise in there, but see, that's the beauty of this, it doesn't matter. You know what we're like, we're always titivating. That's a good word that Matthew used. Okay, I just want to bring these two pictures in here again. Now on this one I've got quite a lot of red colour showing on the photograph, but this one I've got this lovely light area. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of a combination of the two on this piece of the hill here. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to tear up a bit of newspaper. Okay. I should probably put a few pieces of this in. So I'm mixing back up my quite bright red colour. Putting that down there. This is a bit big at the minute. Put that in. can just about see that wording through there. Now the thing with acrylic paint is it's basically glue and colour. So you don't need glue to put these in, you can actually just use paint. So I'm just sticking it down with a little bit of paint. What you do have to remember is I'm just taking a damp brush and taking some of that paint back off so you can actually see the print. Let's put another bit coming along there. And then just another bit there. I'm bound to put some more in because I'm like that. And if you want to be really clever, you can choose your text based on your painting. This is just very random. Right, so now I need to come in and put some of my darks back into there. So I need my purple, so I've got my blue, my crimson and a touch of brown. So I put the newspaper down where it's light, so I'm not actually having to put my dark colours over the top of them. So I can put my dark next to them. And again, as we've all done, it's put the paint down and then fiddle with it until it's doing what you want it to do. So I've got this other little hillock in the foreground. So I just want some dark in behind that. So now I'm just kind of trying to push my shapes so that they're more visible. So I'm trying to get my shapes visible. See, I love things like there's a little bit of just really rough texture there, and I really like that little bit up there. So just building my darks. Okay, let's move this across a little bit. I think we need a little bit of newspaper on this side, don't we? Let's have a bit coming in down here. So as long as I put a bit of paint on underneath it, again, I'm just coming back in and taking some of that paint off so we can see the writing underneath. Just. Okay, I'm just going to try and tilt that a little bit just so that you can see, hopefully, you can see the wording there. Right, I'm coming back over to this side here. Now I'm adding some of the Naples yellow back into the colours. So you can see here, I'm not cleaning my palette, I'm not cleaning my brush half the time, I'm just putting another layer of colour over the top and mixing it in, and that keeps all the colours blending together. So again, using the side of the brush to give me these broken marks. And down this slope, this side here. I also want a little bit of that, I think, up there. Okay, I want some brighter again here. These aren't the natural colours that were there, but they were sort of the colours. I'm just exaggerating what was there. That a little bit too far up, so I'm just going to push the red away a little bit. Just coming in with a bit more light here. I added a bit of white to my pinky colour. So hopefully this is starting to feel like it's coming together as a landscape, but overall it's definitely not too detailed. Now at the top here there's a bit of snow on some of the hills in my photographs. Again, just bring that in so you can see we've got a little bit of snow going on at the top here. Actually, I'm going to change over to my number 4 flat brush here. And just popping in a tiny little bit of where this snow is right on the top of the hill. Just a little bit. Ooh, you don't need to be seeing the top of my head, you want to see the painting, don't you? Sorry about that. So again, I'm just taking a damp brush and just pushing the paint around. Making sure it's where I want it to be. And again, this is the thing with the interactive acrylics, they will re-wet for a while, so you can re-wet them and push them to where you want them to be. That's not really there in the photograph, but I just quite like it. Okay, just going to move this back across a bit so we can see this bit. I want to put, there are some pine trees over on that side of the water as well. So I need my green black and a bit of my light green together, and I'm just going to use my large round brush and just dot. So it's the actual shape of the brush, so you're just literally pushing the brush down, and that's giving me the shape that I want of this pine forest. I'm going to pick up some that are darker, some that are lighter. Few lighter bits as well. Right, I've cleaned my brush out, dried it off, and then I'm just going to flatten out the bottom of these. Trees have bumpy tops but flat bottoms. Okay, so just a bit of more dark at the base here. Now I've seen Val has just joined, who is the lady who took me to this particular spot. Maybe Val, you can remember where this one was. I can't remember the name of it. Okay, coming back in with a bit more of my newspaper. So I'm just tearing up my strips of newspaper. There's the brush. I want my flat brush, and I want my light turquoisey blue. I'm going back into the water now, so it's my turquoise, my ultramarine and my white. That's too big. Oops, stuck to me. Just put my brush under to make sure there's plenty of paint underneath it. Now that says Castle Meadow, which I quite like being able to see. I'm just picking up a bit more of this very light turquoisey blue. Now this little bit here that you can see, this is where I had a drip of water where I was moving a wet brush around. And because the Atelier Interactive Paint is re-wettable, it's re-wet it and I've lifted the paint off. So I shall have to come back in and do something about that. Let's just dab the water off there. I can come back in and work on that later. So I'm bringing this turquoisey blue back over, but I'm trying not to get rid of all of that pink that I rolled on here before. Again, just dragging. The paper I'm using here is the SAA's practice paper again. So when you drag with a dry brush, you get a bit of that surface texture of the sort of canvas print that's on the paper. I think we need another little bit of paper coming forward here. So some in this area here. Move this across a bit. Oh, don't want that bit. That's got a website on it. I quite like this, but I want it to be neutral. You know, you get the odd bit where you think, oh, Castle Meadow, that works here, but sometimes like this, I've put my bit of newspaper in upside down. The water doesn't go through there, but I'm scrubbing a few bits around. Okay. So just move it across so hopefully you can see I'm going to work on this area, the green and reds area in here. Now I'm coming in, again going back to that warm mix, but I'm adding some of my Naples yellow into it. So I've got my crimson, my red gold and my Naples yellow. And I want to put an edge on this. There's kind of like beaches at the edge of this, and I'm exaggerating the colour of them. They were sort of creamy colour, but I think it makes it more exciting to have them this quite warm colour. Just bringing this forward. Right, now back to my Naples yellow, and this is mostly just Naples yellow, but with whatever colour was left on my brush. And those who know me know that my favourite colour is still muck off the palette. All those little bits of colour are really exciting that you get left in the corners, so I like working with them. Bringing these little beachy areas across. Now Now back to my big brush, because I want to mix up some more of my green. So it's my two greens together. I'm coming back to my roller. I'm just drying it so it's not too wet. I'm putting some texture across here. Now, whilst I've got this on the roller, I'll put some down here as well. Coming back to my brush, and creating this meadow area. It was a water meadow of some sort. It's beautiful. Now, whilst we're there, I'm hoping you can see this area here. So I'm mixing up the colour that I was using in the water, and I just want to put some areas of this down here, as if these water meadows have got some puddles in them. Just in one or two areas where that water is coming in. And a bit of white on there as well. Okay, now on here, I need to put some. There's not really any trees on here, but there are some other scrubby areas. I'm going to leave that for now because that needs to dry off. So I'm going to come back over to the other side. Okay, hopefully you can see that edge there now. Okay, yes, I think you can. So coming forward. Ooh, picked up some more turquoise, that's fine. Bit more light on here. I'm cutting across that bit of newspaper, but I'm not covering it over completely. There we go. And I think we need some of our darker green just along this edge here. I do use my brush in all sorts of different directions. So let's come back to this brush, just give myself some treetops. These trees are a bit neat for me, just want to mess them up a little bit. And putting something like trees into a landscape like this does give you a scale, so it gives things, you know, a size. Just keep moving there. Now I've lost a bit of my pink in there. So I just want to make sure that doesn't disappear altogether. There we go. Now we've got this little island, whatever you want to call it, in the middle here. So that's got some trees on it as well. Again, Just bringing the side of the brush up, different shapes. A bit bigger as they come forward. Let's have a couple of little things there. Okay, now where do I go next? I think I need to just work on this area in the foreground. Now, in my photograph, there is an area of trees here and then some scrubland in the front, and I quite like this scrubland in the front, so I'm going to try and keep some of that. So I'm now going to go back to my nice big brush. And I want to get some of my darker green, so it's my green black, a little bit of the light green and some brown. And I want to create an edge here. So again, I'm just using the brush at different angles to give me all these different marks, but leave this area in the foreground clear. So let's come back over this way a little bit. So I'm using this the same way I used the smaller brushes to give me some texture and some trees and some shapes. Nothing too definite. Again, I've got to be quite careful not to go over all of the pink that's in the background. In fact, every now and then if you feel you're getting a bit too tidy, make it a bit messier. No, picked up the wrong one there, need the dark one. It feels to me my iPad is slowly sinking and getting closer and closer to the picture. Okay, now one thing I want to do here is there's quite a lot of light tree trunks in this foreground bit. So I'm going to pick up some of my Naples yellow, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and pick up the paint on the edge of the roller. Roller's still a bit wet. Just roller these little marks at the bottom of my stand of trees. Soften some of the edges of those, break over them so they're not just solid long lines. And have a little bit more dark down at the base here. Okay, I'm going to just do a little bit in here. I want to put something that's not really in there. I've got a road going through there which I don't want to use, but I want to have some light in the foreground just to grab your attention, and that sort of will start the sweep through the painting. So I'm going to put a few rocks at the front here. Again, I'm just going to use the side of my brush some coming down to the water's edge too. can't be in isolation. And then I'm mixing up some more dark. So this is blue and brown that I'm going to mix here. Just put some colour around those. So we're nearly there, and what I'm going to do, because my camera has decided to sink slowly into the sunset and you can't see the whole thing, I will turn my camera back around in a couple of minutes and show you the whole thing. But let's just pull that into the middle, and hopefully you can see we've got a landscape here. There's a few things I want to do. I want to add some light going across the back here. And I think I'm just about there, just about. There's always a bit of push and pull you can do. But with this, what I hope I have shown you is to not be afraid of trying not to put in every last bit of detail. We're all obsessed with trying to make things look like photographs, and certain times that's brilliant, that's exactly what you need if that's the type of painting you want to do. But I know we all like having a go at trying to loosen up a little bit. So let's just bring that. One last thing I'm going to do here, if my roller will allow me to do it. Let's get this bit back in view. Just have some grasses come in here. Different colour. Just a few grasses coming up at the front here. So I hope you've enjoyed that very quick demo of trying to loosen up a little bit with acrylics. I may well come back in and fiddle with a few bits of it, but at the moment it needs to dry off, so I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. There's a magic bit to do. You know what's happening, don't you? I'm taking the tape off it. There we go. I've got a couple of other pictures here. If you hang on, once I've shown you this, I've got a couple of other finished ones that I can show you. So, get the right way. There we go. Hopefully you can see just about the whole thing there. Oh, still holding it too close. There we go. It's all working back to front with these things. You're never quite sure what you're doing. So that's the view. Now I'm just going to hold up a couple of other things. So this is the one that you saw in the photograph before. So this is done in the same way. I've got to get used to doing this back to front. So that was done exactly the same way, just using those really loose textures. And this is of the borders. My daughter lives up on the borders between England and Scotland, and this was from up in that area. I have another one I can show you, and this was from the Lake District, of a walk along the Lake District. So once you've seen it being done, you can see how I've done lots of rollering and just building of that colour in there. So that's that one. And finally, the other one I wanted to just show you is this one. You can see the reflection of my light, sorry. This one I quite liked because the colours aren't really all that natural. So I've got the red sky. There we go, that's a bit better. So that's just a couple of other examples of this way of working. So I hope you'll have a go. I hope you'll relax a little bit with your acrylics, and I will get back through and have a look at all your comments. So thank you very, very much. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.